Welcome to our weekly Forex market analysis call, and this is in preparation for trading for the week of November 5th to the 9th, 2018. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started here. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with that. So especially this week, since we have the U.S. elections, and U.S. is the most widely traded currency, so we can see an impact on the market. So let's get started here as usual by taking a look at our calendar here. So starting off on a Monday here, we do have services PMI number for UK here. Services PMI number is important. The PMI numbers are a precursor to retail sales, so they're a leading indicator from fundamentals perspective. So important number there. Bank of Canada Governor Poloz here, if he they raised rates. Bank of Canada Governor Poloz here, if he says anything that he hasn't said in the last week, and then that will have an impact. But if his speech is basically similar to what was said before, then I wouldn't expect too much of an impact from that speech here. We do have ISM non-manufacturing PMI numbers for the US. Again, that will be important. We have a central bank here, RBA rate statement. So we've been seeing a lot of central banks with their monetary policy statements in the last couple of weeks here. Australia has not raised rates in a while, and Reserve Bank of Australia is basically holding the monetary policy as is. So right now, not expecting an interest rate hike. What really will make a difference will be the commentary that comes out of the central bank here. So if they talk about growth prospects for Australia in a positive way, so if they're looking at growth and they're saying we're expecting economy to grow, and that will be positive. Anything related to that, job growth, economic growth, any of those will be positive, and we can see Australian dollar go up. But if they come and talk about the growth prospects in a negative way, just like Bank of Canada did, where they were concerned, and ECB did pretty much the same thing, where they were concerned about the growth going forward in 2019 and 2020. And if they are negative or dovish about it, that will have a negative impact on Australian dollar, and we could see it drop. So this is an important news item there. On Tuesday, we have elections here in the US. So very, very important to keep in mind as a result of elections. So these are midterm elections here. Now, when we had the presidential elections, there was a huge impact on the market. Now, Donald Trump has been president for a couple of years now, and now we are kind of into the midterm elections, and these elections, so there's some interesting sentiment that has been created in the US. Now, that sentiment will kind of carry into the elections, and based on the results of the elections, we could see, or as the election results are coming out, we could see volatility in the market prior to the elections, during the elections, and after the election. So the entire week, we need to be careful when trading US dollar, because I would expect volatility depending on what kind of results come out. So anytime there are elections in any country, generally when there's a risk, there's a political risk, it will have an impact on that currency. So keep that in mind. Same thing with the US dollar as well. And we saw in the later part of last week, we saw that the US dollar was impacted as a result of that. So that's just the precursor to the elections. So very important, keep that in mind. And then we have New Zealand here, employment numbers for New Zealand, as well as inflation here. Inflation is an important number that central bank will track, as well as employment here. So again, these will be important because we have on Wednesday, we have a Reserve Bank of New Zealand monetary policy statement. They're not expected to raise rates, just like the Reserve Bank of Australia, not looking for an interest rate hike here. However, the commentary, again, will make a difference. And then we have press conference here as well. So expect volatility in New Zealand dollar during that time. And then on Thursday here, we have economic forecasts here. Those could make a difference, even though it's not marked as red. The economic forecasts are important. And then we have on Thursday, FOMC. So 3 different central banks here. And so 3 different central banks here. And we have to, so again, volatility is to be expected during this week here. And then we have monetary policy statement, even though the cash rate came out before monetary policy statement, because this will contain the thoughts or everything that was discussed during the meeting, that can have an impact here because it's an official statement they're making. So again, do expect a volatility here in Australian dollar as a result of that. And then Friday, we have GDP numbers out of UK here. So it's a very important, volatile, potentially volatile week. So yeah, so be mindful of that. And in terms of how to weigh in which party, like how to basically see what impact it will have based on what political party will win. I'm not really able to comment on that right now, because at this point, I think things are kind of up in the air. So before, when we had the presidential elections, there was very clear-cut sort of impact that we could have expected. So I think I think Bloomberg or Reuters has done a little bit of a breakdown on that. So I would suggest reading that. But personally, based on my opinion, I personally think we are going to get volatility because the results may not be as clear-cut as they were previously. So when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were both running for the elections, I think there was a certain amount of, because they had said, well, this is the Democratic agenda, or this is what Hillary Clinton stands for, and this is what Donald Trump stands for. There was a very clear-cut sort of agenda in place. And so we knew that when Hillary going into the elections, US dollar was strong because everybody expected Hillary Clinton to win. And then we had that upset where so there was an upset when Donald Trump last minute, there was stuff that came out against Hillary Clinton, and then Donald Trump sort of took the lead and won the election. So immediately when he won the elections, there was a drop in the US dollar, and then based on his speech, then there was positiveness because he said some of the right things, and that made the market go back up. And we saw that the equity markets had actually dropped as well as a result of Donald Trump winning. And then after his speech, and when people kind of got a chance to hear what he had to say, and he changed his stance a little bit. He was a little bit more accommodating, shall we say, and that had actually made a difference. So at this point, now that we have been into 2 years of this presidency, I think there's interesting things that have played out in the US, and as a result of that, it will have an impact on the elections. So I'm not really too deep into the politics, but that's why I can't really comment on it, not being in the US. So I would say look at Bloomberg and Reuters. They have done some breakdowns in terms of market impact. So those would be the sources that I would point you to in figuring out what's going on here. But overall, I think there may be some interesting stuff going on. So, all right. So let's keep that in mind. So now move on to our charts here. We'll start off with Euro US dollar here. For the Euro dollar here, we see that there is an indecision candle, and which is to be expected because now we are going into the elections. Like I said, elections always have a big impact. We looked at the Italian elections, right? Those had an impact in terms of the euro. Anytime there are elections, there will be impact. And so as traders, it doesn't matter what political party wins or doesn't win. What we need to see is what the impact will be as a result of that. So here it could go either way. So we'll just have to wait and see. Again, read those reports. But here from technicals, purely technicals standpoint here, we see that price came into the bottom, into the support that we had been looking for, and then it pushed back up. Now we are completely neutral. It's completely neutral. Opening and closing price are exactly at the same time, same place, and then we have pins on both sides. So it can go either way. What we need to look at is if price goes into the support here, we could see a bounce off of that. And if it goes into the resistance here, we could see a drop from that. So this is how I would look at it. But at some point, we will see a break. If the price breaks down, so if it closes below our support here, I will look for a pullback. I will look for price to hold below before looking for a downward trend here, because it is neutral. It could just fake us. It could just drop, fake, and then reverse directions. And that happens a lot of times. So we have to be careful here. Overall, the bias is neutral. If you're looking for price to break down, then 1.12, so 1220, or potentially 1.1120 will be the targets to the downside. If price breaks above the high here, I'm looking for price to go into 1.1620 or potentially even higher based on how much volatility we experienced during the elections, 1.1730 levels. So right now it's completely neutral. So I have a couple of targets on either side of price right now. Pound here. Pound has been very, very strong, or was very strong last week, because Brexit news came out, and there were first there were comments that they were going to reach an agreement before November 20th or 21st, and that really pushed the British pound up. And then there was the Times. I think they released an article saying that Prime Minister Theresa May said that that they're very close to an agreement, and the most of the bigger terms or things that they had disagreements on, they were actually starting to come together on that, and they had reached some sort of a mutual agreement on those subjects. As a result of that, that's very positive for British pound, and we saw the British pound go up. So now we have a bullish candle close for British pound. As a result of that, I will look for price to go high. So in this case, couple of options here. So we are into resistance. So do understand that we are into resistance. So price could turn here. That will be important thing to keep in mind, that even though we have a bullish candle close, we could see price turn around here. However, more likely than not, we're looking for price to actually go up higher. So my base case scenario is for it to go higher. So bullish here, 1.3294. So 1.3300 is the target to the upside here. So as we see here, this is kind of a range that we've been trading in for a while here for the pound. So if you were to move over here, see, we have been trading in this range for a pound, for the British pound. Price came and tested the low, rejected that. So now we are towards the middle of the range. So I would look for price to go up higher. But again, because we are into resistance, we have to be cautious with that. So overall bias is bullish for British pound here. Australia here, Australian dollar. Again, this has been trading in a bit of a range here as well. So we have a bullish candle close here. Okay, so we have a bullish candle close. We do have a pin on the top. So there's bullishness in this candle. As a result of that, we could go higher here. Price could move up. And the target would be 0.7330 level here. But like I said, for British pound here as well, with all the US dollar crosses, actually, they can be very volatile because of the elections. So regardless of what the technicals say, they can do, US dollar can move whichever way it wants because of, based on the results of the election. So just keep that in mind. But for now, I would say bullish for Aussie dollar and potentially 0.7320 or 0.7330 level will be the target to the upside here. New Zealand dollar, so this one, just like Australian dollar, this one has Reserve Bank of New Zealand statement coming out, monetary policy statement coming out. So we have a bullish candle close here for the week. So I would look for price to go up. So 0.6720 will be the first target right into here. Then we run into this support turned into resistance here. So that will be the first target. Second target would be 0.6790 level. So this is the second target. It could go a little further here as well into this massive amount of resistance there. So for now, bias is bullish. But the Reserve Bank of New Zealand statement can change things for this one. Dollar CAD here. Dollar CAD had an interesting week here as well because Bank of Canada did raise rates, and we have a very neutral candle close here as well. So this suggests that, shows that price has kind of lost its momentum. We don't seem to have a lot of momentum to the upside here. However, keep in mind, if US dollar turns volatile, this one could take off, even though this one is showing that we don't have much momentum left. So what I would expect is price to kind of do one of these, test the high, and then drop is normally what I would expect the price to do, because there isn't a ton of momentum here. So for the last 2 weeks here now, we are seeing an indecision candle, which suggests that there isn't a lot of steam left for the buyers, so sellers can step in. However, as we see here, this was a similar scenario where there wasn't a lot of momentum left in the market, but something changed and price got pushed up. So that something could be related to the US dollar, not necessarily to Canadian dollar. So be mindful of that. Indecision candle really means indecision in the market, which means it can go either way. So with this one, it's important to set targets on both sides here. My base case scenario will be to the downside, just looking for price to kind of do one of these, just because we have had 2 back-to-back indecision candles, and that shows that momentum is not there anymore. But with the volatility, things can change. So if price breaks the high here, next target would be 1.3240 and then 1.3380. So those will be the next 2 targets to the upside. Now, if price goes and tests the high here, does not break it, then I'm looking for it to drop. And in that case, the target would be 1.2920 will be the first target, and 1.2780 will be the second target to the downside. Euro pound here. Euro pound has had an interesting ride. We saw price moving up and then a big drop as the British pound picked up steam there. So this looks bearish at this time. I will look for price to drop further here. We are into support, so be mindful of that. But looking for it to drop further, 0.8660 will be the target to the downside. So bearish bias for Euro pound. Euro Swiss franc here. This one looks bullish here. So I would look for price to go and test the high here once again at 1.1500. So 1500 there. So looking for price to go and test the high. And then we could see, because that we are into resistance here, then we could see price drop like it did last time. So right now this is bullish, looking for price to go into 1.1500. So bullish bias for Euro Swiss franc. Pound Swiss franc here. This one has been very bullish based on the positiveness related to Brexit in the British pound here. So we have a bullish engulfing candle close here, looking for price to go up higher. 1.3120 will be the target here, will be the first target. And if it breaks this high, then 1.3280 will be the next target to the upside. So this is looking bullish as well. Dollar Swiss franc here. This one is looking bullish, but we are into these resistance levels. And this looks like an important support and resistance, just like this one here. See how we had a large pin on the top and then price dropped. So I'm looking for something similar here, looking for price to potentially retest the high or push up higher and then come back down. So my bias is to the downside, just because I'm looking for a potential retest of the high and then a drop. Target would be 0.9960. So first I'm looking for a push up and then a drop. So overall, that would be the bias, just looking for it to drop from the high there. Let's take a look at yen crosses here. This is pound yen. Pound yen looking quite bullish here. We are into the resistance here. So that's something we'll have to be mindful of. But because we have a bullish candle close, price could go higher here. And target here would be 149.80 level. And that's when we may see things turn around here. So we have, that's kind of what I'm looking for, price to go up the high 149.80 and then a potential drop. So it's kind of like sideways for the most part. So looking for a push to the high 149.80 will be the target for pound yen. Euro yen here, this one is also looking bullish. We are into resistance here as well, but it is pushing higher. So as a result of that, bias is bullish, and next target would be 131.20 level. Now, be careful that this one could turn around here or into these resistance at 130.20. So I would be careful with that, just because we are into resistance and things can change. And also, when there is uncertainty in the markets or uncertainty due to anything, it could be political risk and things like that, Japanese yen tends to be volatile as well. So expect a reaction in yen as well, especially if something unexpected happens. So if Republicans don't win, maybe something like that. So then we could see yen become volatile as well. So right now, bias is bullish, looking for 131.20 level. Dollar yen finished the week positive here as well. So we have a bullish engulfing candle close here. So this one could go higher as well. First target would be 114, and then next target would be 114.50, which is the top of the pin here. So bullish bias for dollar yen as well. Aussie yen here, this is looking quite bullish. We are into resistance, so that's something to be mindful of. But for now, looking for price to go up higher, 84.50 will be the target. But it could get stuck here. So just be careful, because we are sort of into resistance in many of these pairs. So we could even get stuck at the top of those candles. We could see one of these, because Australia also has the monetary policy coming out this week. So right now, though, based on purely technicals here, this is looking bullish. First target 82.50, second target 84.50. So bullish bias for Aussie yen. New Zealand yen here, this is looking kind of range bound into the top of the range here. Price has been trading in this range, as we can see, but so we'll have to be careful here. So we had this nice big bullish candle close here, but price could not break the resistance. So we are into the support turned resistance here. So this is a range that price has been trading in. So if it does not break the high, we could see something like this happening. So that would be the cautious part. But because it's bullish, so if it breaks the high, then looking for price to go up to the next target. So something like this, 76.80 will be that target to the upside. So right now it's bullish bias, but only if it breaks the high. Otherwise, I would look for price to come back into this range again. All right, so let's take a look at our commodities here, see what's going on. Oil, big, huge drop in oil, very, very bearish here. So momentum has actually increased. Before momentum was decreasing, now it's back up to being pretty bearish here again. So bias would be to the downside, but do look out for maybe pullbacks. So we could potentially see a pullback like that, or it could even do a deeper pullback. So just be careful with that. But right now, bearish is bias. Bias is bearish, and I'm looking for 59.80 will be the target to the downside. So bearish bias for oil. Gold here, gold is another thing that is likely to be impacted by the elections. So right now we have this bullishness in this in the price here. So if you were to look at daily, we see that price had dropped, and then we have this big bullish engulfing candle close here, which gives us this pin on the weekly chart. So as a result of this pin, bias is bullish. First target would be 1243.50. Second target will be 1260.61, even 1265. So let's say 1265. So bias is bullish, but again, because we are so close to the high, this is the cautious part. So we have to be careful with that one. But if it breaks above the high, I would look for a pullback and a hold above, and looking for a bullish move beyond that. So that will be, that's the bias here. So bullish for gold. Copper here, this one we had a drop in initially, and then we saw this big bullish reversal, and in 2 days it engulfed the previous price actions. That gives us this bullish pin bar here. So bias is bullish for now, looking for 2.85. Now, again, watch out for pullbacks. We could get pullbacks here as well. Anytime there's a huge move, I do watch out for pullbacks here. So bias is bullish, next target 2.85. And beyond that, I will look at 2.93 or even 2.95. So first target would be 2.85. So bullish bias here for copper as well. And let's have a quick peek at our silver here, and then we'll take a look at Bitcoin. Silver here, also bullish. We see price rejected the low here. It did drop initially during the week, came into support, and has pulled back since then. So now, big pin to in the bottom here, which suggests bullishness. So bias is bullish. First target will be 14.99, so $15. And if it breaks through the high, then looking for price to go into 15.28. So bullish bias for silver. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin hasn't really done much. It's been in this range for some time now, for several days now, for even weeks here. So I'm looking at the daily chart here. The move has been very, very small. So it's consolidating. When there is consolidation or consolidation for an extended period of time, generally the move that comes out of that can be quite large as well. So what we don't know at this point is which way it's going to go. It can either just shoot up or shoot down here. Right now, it's not looking terribly bullish. So it could just be just a setup it could just come down like this from right over here and then do one of these. So that's kind of what I would look for, a bit of a move to the downside just to come into the bottom of the support here. But because we are consolidating so tightly and the consolidation's been going on for over 2 weeks now, I would be careful with this one because it could just shoot out as well. So right now, just looking for it to drop into 61.13 level here. So that is that is looking slightly bearish, but within the range. Another thing that I would like to take a look at here is the Euro index. So let's have a quick peek. So Euro index right now has been pushing up higher, but we are into a bit of a resistance. Okay, so Euro index pushed up higher, came into this, filled this gap here, came into this resistance and has pushed down on the daily here. So looking at the weekly chart, we have this indecision candle. And this is what we saw on the euro dollar chart as well. So overall bias here still stays to the downside. However, because we are into support right over here, as if you take a look here, we are into support here all the way here and further up into here as well. So it is into support, which means it can start going up higher as well. So be mindful of that. We could see a bounce to the upside, which means euro dollar is likely to go up higher as well if the euro index goes up. Looking at our dollar index here, let's have a quick peek. Dollar index did not do too well. Last week it had gone up, then it has pulled back, and now we have a bit of a move to the upside. So going to our full featured chart here, let's take a look at the candlestick. So this is what we have. We saw this big drop. This is the daily here. So big drop and the pullback. So generally, out of a move like this, we would expect price to sort of maybe go up a little bit and then drop. So if price does not break these pins here, chances are price could drop. But on the daily here, this does set up a bullish candle looking for price to go up higher. Now, there's no guarantee that it will reverse here. It could go all the way into the top. If it does that, that means then we are looking for price to US dollar to be bullish, which means the dollar crosses are likely to drop in that scenario. But again, this is a volatile week coming up, so I would just be mindful of that and maybe take the size down in terms of trading. That's all I have. Any questions? I'm usually not a big hedger, Eamon. I don't really like playing both sides, especially during these elections. I think there will be volatility, like with the previous presidential elections. There was huge volatility. So I wouldn't do that. I'd rather just sit them out and not really try to make a guess. All right, so no other questions. So we will wrap it up. You guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you next time again. Bye for now.